So, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Brad Hardie, and I'm the Director of Education here at Moving the Human Spirit. And along with my business partner, Susan Hogarth, who happens to be on here today, we really want to just welcome you to this conversation on creating environments where people thrive. And what I'd like to do today is to really share how leading with empathy and compassion and courage really builds a kind of culture that people want to be part of, and how these qualities become even more powerful when we understand trauma and adversity at the same time. So, this conversation is not about being neutral, it's about having the courage to be human and to really lead in ways that bring out the best in people. That really is some of the modo operandi that we work with here at Moving the Human Spirit. And of course, we are hopeful to take that forward in this place of compassionate leadership. So, I'd like us to begin by thinking about a simple reflection. I want to invite you to think back to a time in your life or in your career when you were part of something bigger than self, maybe part of a team, some place where you felt you were energized, supported, fully able to contribute. And just think a little bit about what was happening in that environment that made you feel that way. What made you thrive? So, thinking back to that time when you thrived at work, what made the environment supportive? And now, as you reflect on that and think about it a bit, I'm going to ask this second piece, a contrast to that time when maybe you dreaded going to certain environments, going to work, going to places that you felt less than inspired, when you felt unseen, or maybe even unsafe. And the question that we want to pose here is, what was missing? What was different in this particular environment that made you feel that way? So, if we think about some of the things that challenge us as you're pondering that question, if you think about some of the challenges as leaders that we encounter, I wanted to take an opportunity just to name a few of them. I know that all of us at some level, time in our life, have been leaders, whether we've known it or not. Some of us may be pursuing careers or communities of leaders. We might be also working in environments where we have younger people, where we have older people that still look at us as leaders. So, some of the challenges that I wanted to talk about today as we think about these and in environments that we live in are rapid change and uncertainty. So, if I think about our organizations or our environments where they're moving faster than ever, when we think about things such as restructuring, new technologies, which we certainly have seen an abundance of, um, shifting priorities. We think about our global world now, our global presence, how we're seeing things. We witness so many more things than we ever did before. So really thinking about shifting priorities, how that works with belief systems and values. As a result of it, what we're seeing is that people are generally very exhausted just trying to keep up. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about or name, that rapid change and uncertainty. And that uncertainty, of course, can really fuel anxiety and disengagement. So really thinking about that nervous system. I think of Catherine James when I think about it. She's really specializes in that idea around how we have to organize the nervous system in order to relate to environments that we work in, and how if that nervous system is not in a parasympathetic. The other thing I wanted to talk about is trauma and adversity in the places where we find ourselves. So if we think about anything in organizations that are going through a lot of change. We think about people actually bringing their lived experiences. We don't move into work and not bring what's personally happening to us. Don't not bring it, I should say. We're thinking about things such as personal loss. We think about mental health struggles. And again, I know that I might sound repetitive here, but I keep thinking about these global crises that we're going through and how much those affect us. We're much more a global community than we've ever been in the past. And that's something that's at the very forefront of how I think about compassionate leadership. So our understanding also of trauma, which has taught us that it's much more prevalent than we once thought. And adversity affects how people show up. And what I mean by showing up is how we are when we present to other people. How safe do we feel? How much can we contribute? What's left in us to be able to do that? So that becomes a challenge for some of us in these positions. The other interesting thing for me, which I've seen through the years, being of a certain age and coming from a certain background, is performance pressure versus human needs and how we think about that from a leadership place. You know, we're under pressure all the time to deliver results. And sometimes it feels like we have to choose between driving performance and actually caring for our people. I don't know if any of you have experienced that. I certainly have in the past. And what happens then is that tension can leave us feeling very stuck or isolated. Sometimes when we're in these positions, we feel like we're the only one paddling the boat to either save or secure what's going on. So that's something that thinking about that pressure of performance versus what's needed by us as humans. The other one that I think about, of course, and we it's at the forefront again. All these things are now. It seems to be the perfect uh, storm for us globally. But one of the other things is the culture of silence, and finally, you know, thinking about any environments, workplaces, communities that still operate in a way where it doesn't feel safe to speak up. So that feeling of not being heard, you know, and that comes from a place of people feeling judgment. They don't feel that the leader will listen to what they have to say. Hey, Janet. Hey, beautiful Janet. Great. Didn't know who that was. So also really looking at it and thinking, uh, without this psychological safety, without innovation and honesty that is rapidly disappearing for us. So it's something to consider. So my invitation is to think a little bit about which of these challenges feel the most real for you in your life right now. What are you seeing as a result of some of the challenges we face as leaders? I didn't want to come in feeling like we have no hope. So our talk's really around responding with some of these things, looking at empathy, compassion, and courage. That's what makes me hopeful, of course. I think about these particular things. So, how do we meet some of these challenges? Well, it starts with who we are as leaders and how we choose to show up. There's three different qualities that I think I'd like to highlight today, and that certainly comes in unison with what it is we're trying to put forward at Moving the Human Spirit, especially in these areas of compassionate leadership, thinking about how we work with trauma and adversity. And the first one of those, of course, is empathy. And empathy is that listening to understand, not to fix. And it's about being present enough to recognize what someone else might be experiencing, to really see the person for who they are. We can't fix it necessarily, but we want to be able to recognize that in its humanity. And even if you can't fully relate, have a deeper understanding about what's going on. Because we know when people feel understood, what happens? Their social engagement comes online. You can see I've been talking to Catherine yesterday, can't you? It lowers their defenses and it builds a deeper trust when we're working with people. I approach dogs that don't snarl, and I stay away from those that bite. It's just common sense. The other one that I think about, and lots of people who have had an opportunity to be around me or hear me speak at some point or even sit in on a class, is compassion. I am all about compassion. Compassion is the love child of empathy in action. Compassion takes empathy that one step further. It's empathy in action. It's asking, how can I support this person so that they can succeed? What an amazing thing to say. Do you have everything you need to succeed in this? And that might mean adjusting expectations temporarily, connecting them with resources. What are we as leaders if not being able to be resourceful? Or simply letting them know that they're not alone. Sometimes that is of great use to the people that we work with or find ourselves around. And the last one, of course, that would come with both empathy and compassion is when we think about the courage and the courage that it takes to show up on the stages of life, not the way that others expect us to be or that we think they want to see us, but having the courage to show up in environments differently. Courage is often overlooked. It's an overlooked part of being a leader. Compassionate leadership is not about avoiding hard truths. It's about having the courage to make tough decisions with humanity at the center. So it's about challenging outdated norms, calling out behaviors that harm culture, and of course, really about modeling vulnerability. Sounds like a pleasant place to be, right? We all love vulnerability. And when we bring in the trauma-informed lens, these qualities become even more powerful. So, understanding trauma means being able to recognize that stress and adversity affects people's nervous system. It affects their focus. And it also affects their relationships. How can they not? If I don't feel connected and safe with someone, I'm less likely to trust and care in a manner that's going to be productive for both of us. So leaders don't need to be therapists. That's not what we're saying. That's not our responsibility. But we can normalize the fact that stress responses are human. And we can create safety with people. And that will assist them in doing their best. If I'm in a safe environment, I feel much more likely to be able to respond to and cope with stressors that may present themselves throughout the day. So I have an invitation here. What I'd like to do is just take 2 to 3 minutes, and I want to invite you to take some time and think of these questions that we have presented to you. I'm going to ask you to recall a time a leader helped you thrive. And my hope is you'll be able to. And the second question is, what did they do? And in that reflection, I want you to have an opportunity to think about how it made you feel. So really thinking about a time when a leader supported you in a way that helped you do better to thrive in your work. And maybe it's something they said or how they showed up. And then thinking about how they did show up, what is it that they did do? And how did it make you feel at that time? So just take a couple of moments and reflect on that, if you will. And when you think about it, it could be teachers, it could be grandparents, it could be a parent, it could be an elder, it could be a sibling, it could be a boss, it could be a manager. Does anyone want to share? When you think about this, if you recall a time that a leader helped you thrive, I'm going to invite you to just share what was happening and how it made you feel. Who'd like to share? Share with Sugar Bear. Aged myself again, didn't I? Thoughts? What do you think?
Am I
I,
sharing? Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead. It's fine.
Janet, go ahead, and then we'll go to
Okay, so it was
Alex.
oh, so, sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah, it was just the time I was going through quite a difficult medical emergency within the family, and I was kind of spinning out a little bit. I had to go and speak to a colleague about something, and she just happened to. She's a good friend, but she just happened to be on her own in the office, and I was trying to just ask her something really simple, but I was still spinning out and I couldn't just get the words out. So I ended up breaking down and she was completely silent but listened. But she sat really closely to me and listened really intently. And she told me about a book to think about. Um, and it just made me feel free, actually. It made me feel that, because normally at work, you kind of have to hold it together and not let anybody see you cry or be upset. You know, people think you're a liability if you do all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, so I really felt that I didn't have to hold it in. Um, and yeah, I felt all I can, when I read what you wrote on the screen, my initial response was, I felt free.
free.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Janet. Alex, and then we'll go to Catherine.
Hi. Actually, my situation occurred today, just now.
Ah,
Yeah, I am in a new position as of 3 months ago, a leadership position. And my team members, sorry, since I started, have slowly been leaving. So now we're in a situation where we're very, very understaffed and the schedules are all being mixed around. And my team member this morning that was supposed to open the clinic never showed up because she didn't remember that she was opening. So I received a call from my leader with a lot of stress this morning and everything like that. And just now we had a meeting and she saw that I was feeling very anxious, very overwhelmed by the situation. And she immediately addressed it with me and told me that I was doing a great job and that I'm learning and everything, that she was proud of me. And she's the best leader I've ever had because she gives a lot of positive reinforcement. She's very, very supportive. And I left that meeting feeling very safe, very heard, and also very reassured. So it was a great experience.
how wonderful is that?
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Catherine.
Um, so I get to toot your horn every time I show up. I have a really good friend, coach who keeps me on my toes, and I have been coaching since 2006. And about 3 years ago, we were having a conversation, and he says, "What's keeping you from getting your ICF certification? Just do it." And about 2 weeks ago, he came back and he's like, "Why don't you go to the next level? Just do it." And it's this he, and if you all don't know, I'm referring to Brad, sees things in me that I don't see in myself. I kind of just take this course and move forward. This course of life, and he always comes back and pushes me to go to the next level gently. And it makes me feel seen. It makes me feel very inspired and grateful. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you, Catherine. Sounds like I've planted people in here today. My beautiful people have come forward. Thank you, Amy. So, yeah, those moments, thank you all for sharing that. Those moments, those are the moments that create power for other people. Those are what we're talking about when we think in this way. It's about what assists us in moving forward in these areas. Thank you guys for sharing that. Uh, so fun to see how far we can go. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well, is why trauma-informed leadership matters. And what we're thinking about here is that, trauma-informed leadership recognizes that stress and adversity are not just personal issues, but they're factors that directly impact workplace performance and cultures that we have in front of us, these environments. When people are under pressure and carrying difficult experiences, their ability to concentrate, problem solve, and collaborate are compromised when that prefrontal cortex is offline, sometimes referred to as executive thinking. So we don't have the ability when we feel anxious, unheard, unsafe. The body will react in a way that prevents us from engagement. So by creating these environments of safety where expectations are clear, respect is consistent, and trust is how we'd say nurtured or evolving, leaders give people the stability they need to focus and contribute fully. And as leaders, that's really, when I think about the work that we do, we're here to assist people in their lives to contribute fully. And just as important, of course, trauma-informed leaders normalize the fact that human beings respond differently to adversity. So instead of labeling, which everyone knows how I feel about that if you've known me very long, instead of labeling those responses as weakness or resistance, they see them as a natural and understandable, and they respond in an empathetic and supportive way. I see that you're a little upset about what happened this morning. How can we help you? How can we support you? Alex's example was perfect. It's like, yeah, it was just now. And I instantly got to see the reaction of what could happen in a place where someone recognized who I was and how I react, and that's normal. What a normal reaction. So this shift not only reduces the stigma, it builds stronger and more resilient teams. And what do we try to do all the time as leaders, if not that? So how do we actually put this into practice? It's great. Thank you, bald guy. Now, how do we actually make this happen? So what we want to do is think a little bit about how we shift as leaders. How do we do that leadership shift? And this is some of what I have sort of spoke around as we were talking this morning. We're modeling vulnerability and humanity. Consider that idea. Admit when we don't have all the answers. And that's a tough one for me. I'm an answer guy. I love it. And it makes me, I really have to think about it if I don't have the answers. But why can't I just admit that I don't have all the answers? And that builds an honest connection. Setting clear boundaries and expectations. We talk about that in our coursework, of course. People feel safe when there's predictability and consistency. In some of the work that we do, we talk about control equals safety. So what we're talking about here is predictability and consistency. If I know it's going to be like that, if I know how this environment is, I feel safer. I'm not going to be on my guard. Clarity reduces stress. If I know what to expect, if I know what's happening, then I'm going to have a less stressful situation. What elevates stress? Not knowing what's coming. The other thing that I think about is really being able to cultivate this belonging, creating this regular opportunity for everyone's voice to be heard. Really listening to diverse perspectives strengthen our culture. Any environment that we set forward to build, we can strengthen it that way. And of course, support regulation and well-being. Coming back to this place of encouraging healthy pacing. And what I mean by healthy pacing is to be realistic about what's happening. Remind your team that rest and reflection fuel productivity. It makes total sense. Fill your cup. How do we expect them to keep working if we only want to drain the cup? It doesn't make sense. And the other one, of course, is to, no matter what, recognize effort, not just results. As leaders, being able to remember that, yes, we have these bottom lines. Yes, we have these things that have to happen. Yes, we have these environments that demand a great deal of us, but also just celebrating some of the process builds great resilience in our companies, organizations, cultures, friends, families, relationships. Thank you. I really recognize you're there. I get that we might not have it right now, but I just want to acknowledge you. It tells people they matter beyond their output. And that's a good place to be. I'm just another number. Who loves that? So being able to consider some of these things and reflect on how we can make these shifts. If you could start with just one of those things tomorrow, which would have the most significant impact for you? So if you could do just one of these things tomorrow, which one would have the most significant impact? Would it be modeling vulnerability and humanity? Would it be setting clear boundaries and expectations? Cultivating belonging? I imagine if we did a survey, there's so many people that don't feel like they belong. Celebrating the uniqueness of all of us is wonderful, but separating us from group can be really difficult in environments. Supporting regulation and well-being. Looks like you need a frappuccino or something. Take a break. Whatever the kids are drinking these days. Support regulation and well-being. Recognize effort, not just results. When I see people shine, it doesn't mean that they've completed necessarily what I wanted of them. It means that I recognize and see them doing things beyond what others do. And that is worth recognition in my book. What would you guys share about this as we're coming to this close? What do you think as we start wrapping up? Thoughts, insights. Does it feel like this compassionate leadership is moving us in a direction of being more aware of what we have control of in some of the environments that we feel stuck in? Any insights, comments, or conversation you want? I'm all ears, no hair. So thriving humans build thriving environments. Thriving workplaces, thriving cultures don't happen by accident. They're the result of intentional choices leaders make every day. Each decision, from how we respond to setbacks to how we celebrate progress, either strengthens or weakens the environments that we work in and the environment that people experience. When leaders consistently choose empathy, compassion, and courage, then they're sending a powerful signal to the people that they're working with. And that matters as much as performance. And when people feel safe, valued, and supported, they naturally give more of themselves. They give their best. So, my invitation to you all is to take just one courageous step this week, whether that's checking in on someone who's struggling, or naming a truth that needs to be spoken, or modeling vulnerability with your team. Because when humans thrive, they don't just transform themselves, they transform the environments around them, and creating workplaces where everyone can grow. So I'm welcome to hang out here for a little bit longer. Um, Thinking about creating environments where people thrive begins with us. If you have any questions for moving the human spirit, we certainly offer courses. It's my sad sale, but we offer courses. And if you would be interested, we are always here to talk to you. We have myself or Susan Hogarth, some people Charles has spoken with. So please reach out. And of course, the invitation right now is if anyone has any questions or insights, I would be happy to be here and hear them. And if you don't, of course, I can thank you for having contribute your time to this talk today. So I love seeing those who've come off camera and your beautiful faces, and seeing some friends of mine that I know. Yeah, Catherine.
Um, I believe that leaders enter roles of leadership to make a difference. And what you present here is so imperative for our current times. What I love about this is as leaders think about compassion and empathy and courage and leading from that place, there is this thing called co-regulation. And they get to not only be it, but they get to transfer it to those that are around them. So my belief is that there will be this domino effect of good being transferred around all of these bodies to help, I think counterbalance the I think misfortunes that we're seeing in the world today. So what you offer here is so important. I would think maybe now more important than ever for individuals to really grasp this concept of compassionate leadership.
Mm, thank you, Catherine. Yeah, if not now, then when? So, yeah, I believe that too. We're in an interesting global environment. Anyone else want to share anything? Thanks, Catherine. Anything at all about being here? Thank you, Whitney. Well, then, my wish for all of you guys for the rest of your day is that you'll consider one way that you'll show up different as the leader that you are. And my deep appreciation and uh, gratitude for having taken the time to be here with us today. So we will see you at our next talk, whenever that is. Please stay tuned. And it's wonderful to see you all. Take very good care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. See you, Janet. See you, Catherine. Bye, Alex. See you, Josephine. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye,
Thank
dear.
you.
Take care.
You too.